بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of 9th section of Isharat wa Tanbihat, and from this session we are actually entering into the main discussion. We had a kind of introduction and we talked about the situation with the Arif or mystic and how they have some kind of conditions that some people may realize and some conditions which are hidden. Then he mentioned the story of Salaman and Absal, not in details, but he referred us to that story. We had to explain it. Now we go back to the main discussion about Maqamat al Arifin, about the stations and positions of the mystics. If you look at the second chapter, so we have another Tنبيه, which is like a chapter, and from here we start discussing about the difference between Zuhd and Ibada and Ma'rifah, or you can say between Zahid and Abid and Arif. Those of you who studied Introduction to Islamic Mysticism based on the book by Ayatollah Mutahhari, remember we reviewed this in that book, and I think was lectures 9, 10, 11 of that series, so you have some background about it. But if someone has not listened to those lectures, still they can understand. So first, let's see what do we mean by Zahid, the one who has ascetic life. Ibn Sina says, Al-Mu'ridu an mata'i dunya wa tayyibatiha yukhassu bism Zahid. Yukhassu, there is a typo here. Al-Mu'ridu an mata'i dunya wa tayyibatiha yukhassu bism Zahid. Very good definition of Zahid. If someone is just avoiding haram, just avoiding munkar, just avoiding khabith, what is unpleasant, we don't call this person Zahid. Just avoiding haram or avoiding something which is disliked, which is unpleasant, is not making a person Zahid. Zahid is the one that even getting busy with the halal of dunya would be considered by him or her as a distraction, as an obstacle. They only try to get from dunya as much as they really need. They keep it to the minimum. Even halal. We are not talking about haram. We are not talking about something which is unpleasant. No, even halal. They don't want to get anything from dunya for the sake of dunya. If you don't want to take anything from dunya for the sake of dunya, it means that even things which are halal and permissible but are not helping you for something outside dunya, you should not take them. Is it clear? So if anything, you take it for akhirah or for your journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this is not dunya. But something which is only for the sake of dunya, even halal, for example, more pleasure of dunya, more comfort of dunya, they don't want it. Their interest in dunya is not independent. They only want dunya for the sake of their journey. Therefore, even tayyibat of dunya, halal of dunya, they have no interest in them. The only thing that they have interest in dunya is as much as it can help them with their journey and with their pursuit of the aims which are beyond dunya. So, al-mu'aridu, the one who does i'rad, not physically necessary, but mentally and spiritually does i'rad. I'rad sometimes is physically. For example, I don't keep jewelries close to me, and I try not to own them. I try not to keep them. I try not to go to, for example, places that they sell jewelries, for example, or jewels, because I don't want to have interest in them. But this is not enough, because maybe still in your heart you have great love and actually obsessive love for them, and you are just physically managing to keep yourself away from them. Zahid is the one that has no interest in dunya for the sake of dunya, and therefore even if it happens that he has to have something from dunya, he has no attachment to it. As we have in hadith, ليس الزهد ألا تملك شيئا بل الزهد ألا يملكك شيء. Zuhd is not to own or not to possess. Zuhd is not to be possessed. So if you possess but you are not possessed, that can be fine. But this is of course a possibility. You have to be very careful, because most of the time we deceive ourselves. We go after dunya and say, no, my heart is not attached to it. I am just trying to, for example, look nice in the society, because if I don't look like this, I don't have house like this or car like this, people don't respect me enough, for example. So anyway, we try to sometimes maybe unconsciously find justifications for our own pursuit of dunya. So we have to be very careful. But what I'm saying is it's possible. In theory, it's possible that maybe someone has dunya, but still it is zahid, because zahid is not i'raz just physically. I'rad in the heart, in the intention and attention. So al-mu'aridu biqalbihi, you can maybe say in this way, al-mu'aridu biqalbihi an mata'i dunya wa tayyibataha, the one who turns away with his or her heart from good of dunya or goods of dunya and pleasant things of dunya is called zahid. So the name of zahid is given to such people. Khaja rahmatullah alayh says, aqulu, if in the footnote we can go to number 1 in the footnote. Number 1 in the footnote is about above, we had number 1. This number 1 is the footnote for number 1 above. Khaja rahmatullah alayh, and my heart is really full of respect for Khaja and people like him, so I feel, very embarrassed that I am teaching, this book. But Khaja, with his great knowledge and taqwa and wisdom, he says, Talibu shay'e yabtadi'u. He says, whenever you want to get something, if you are seeking something, rationally, you have few steps to take. First, يبتدئ بإعراض عما يعتقد أنه يبعد عن المطلوب. The very first thing that someone who is looking for something, seeking something, pursuing something, you want knowledge, you want money, whatever you want akhirah, you want health, I don't know, you want to become a sportman, a sportwoman, anything that you want to do, first it starts with i'radin. You have to turn away from anything that he or she believes that is taking him or her away from the aim and al-matlub. So you have to stop obstacles and those things that conflict with my aim. So this is the first thing. Number two, ثم بإقبال على ما يعتقد أنه يقرب إليه. Then you have to go with joy and open heart. Iqbal is opposite to idbar, and idbar is similar to i'rad. Beautiful terms, Iqbal, idbar, i'rad. Iqbal means to turn towards something with openness. Iqbal. Idbar means to turn your back to something. I'rad means to turn away from something. So Iqbal can be opposite to idbar, can be opposite to i'rad. We have this hadith that إن لهذه القلوب إقبالا وإدبارا. Hearts sometimes can be very cooperative. They come with you, they show interest, they are open. Sometimes hearts are somehow closed. They turn away. You have to be moderate with your heart. But moderate not in the sense that you lose control. Moderate in the sense that you are gentle, but you have the direction. Sometimes I can be, for example, I'm riding a horse. I can be very harsh with my horse. And if the horse is not tamed, can rebel. And if it is tamed, would suffer. But sometimes I am lenient, but still I have the control and I manage to take the horse to where I want to go without being harsh. So, طالب الشيء first does إعراض عما يعتقد أنه يبعد عن المطلوب, by turning away from what he or she believes, because this based on your knowledge. Sometimes you don't know something is obstacle, therefore you don't also turn away, unfortunately. But people, when they know something obstacle, so naturally they turn away from those things. Number two, you turn towards what you think is bringing you nearer to the aim. After these two, وَيَنْتَهِي عِنْدَ وِجْدَانِ الْمَطْلُوبِ, then he or she would end with reaching the aim. Wajdan here means to find. Wajada, yajadu means to find.
بحمدك يا إلهي بدأت قولي وجئتك خاضعا.
فَطَالِبُ الْحَقِّ. So this was general about every talib, any seeker of anything. But seeker of the truth, seeker of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for him or her, anything that is an obstacle in paying attention to Allah and journeying towards Allah, that should be stopped. فَطَالِبُ الْحَقِّ يَلْزَمُهُ فِي الْإِبْتِدَاءِ or فِي الْإِبْتِدَاءِ أَنْ يُعْرِضَ عَمَّا سِوَى الْحَقِّ. Anything that is other than haqq, seeker of the truth should turn away from it. So the seeker of truth should turn away from anything other than haqq. Ma siwa Allah should be left. Only Allah and things that are for the sake of Allah. Allah or for the sake of Allah. Not anything next to Allah, other than Allah. لا سيما ما يشغله عن الطلب. Not only he should turn away from anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also you must know that there are things that are very challenging, and you should start here. La siyama means especially what makes him preoccupied and doesn't let him to do his search, his pursuit of the truth. And that is أعني متاع الدنيا وطيباتها. I mean the good of dunya and the pleasant things in dunya which gives you pleasure, worldly pleasure. This is a very basic and very obvious part of it. He says La siyama means definitely you must do this, but it reaches the point that even your thoughts, your ideas which are not for the sake of Allah, you have to stop. But at least you must stop the obvious examples of dunya. And it's not easy, you know. We tend to deceive ourselves, you know, and say, no, I am fine, you know, I'm not doing this for the sake of dunya. But it's very difficult, especially because our challenge is also that we want to have this kind of approach to dunya while we are having normal life. If we were going to have isolated, segregated life, it could have been easier for some people, at least. I know that is not also easy to live separately and alone, have a monastic life, ascetic life. It's not easy, but at least your mind is clear. Maybe it's difficult, challenging, because day and night, people are enjoying and you see them, but you don't want to do like them. But at least your mind is clear that I don't want to have anything with dunya, anything to do with dunya. I don't want even to marry. I don't want to have children. I don't want to have house. I don't want to have anything. At least your mind is clear. But when we want to be living normal life, we want to be married, we want to have children, we want to have some stability, some security, some job, some respect, a house that I can invite people, for example. I want to move around, I need car, I need watch, I need mobile, I need computer, I need dress, I need shoes. So then it becomes very difficult to keep always the balance. And then if you realize what is the balance to keep everyone else in your family and other people who are with you, working with you, also on the same page, because you don't want them to suffer. Maybe I don't want, for example, carpet or rug, rug. I want very simple, for example, carpet. I don't want, Iranian, Persian rug, for example. But what about my family? So it's very, very difficult. So, of course, if you manage to do it, it's great, because you manage to have a mixture of engagement in dunya, active engagement in dunya, but at the same time to remain in your heart and mind not attached to dunya. This is great, and this is a very high level of zuhd. But theoretically it's something, and practically it's something else. In practice it's very difficult to understand all the time what you have to do. Even this practical side has some theoretical side that even you yourself don't know, what should you do. Anyway, inshallah, we are not hopeless, and we keep trying, and inshallah Allah will help us if we try. So طالب الحق يلزمه في الابتداء أن يعرض عما سوى الحق. First must turn away from anything other than Allah, especially those things that preoccupy him from this search, and I mean goods of dunya and pleasant and pleasing and pleasurables in dunya. ثم يقبل, the second step, يقبل على ما يعتقد أنه يقربه من الحق. Then طالب الحق turns towards what he believes or she believes that is taking him or her closer to the truth, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وهو عند الجمهور أفعال مخصوصة هي العبادات. Those things that take us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the truth, according to the majority, according to jumhur, means according to most of people and scholars, is what? Is certain actions, which we call them acts of worship. Because majority of people, even many scholars, they think that it is through our actions that we get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't get busy with dunya and do some actions. But at the same time that we appreciate that we must bring some actions, but Arif knows that actions are not enough. Actions are performed by abid, worshipper, which is great. It's a great honor to be abid, to be worshipper. But this would not satisfy Arif, because human beings are more complicated than just being fixed by doing certain actions. Human beings, for fixing their problems, they need to fix their heart and mind, and not only their organs and what the organs bring when it comes to actions. You can say salat for 30, 40, 50 years and get nothing. You can do recitation of the Quran, become hafiz of Quran and get nothing. You can fast every day and get nothing, or even become proud of yourself and suffer self-admiration and ujb. So actions are important, but not enough. what type of understanding and attitude are behind this action, underlying this action. So let's go to the next line. فهذان هما الزهد والعبادة باعتبار. So these two steps, to stop anything which is a barrier, not to go after dunya, not to go anything after anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is zuhd. Bring some actions is ibadah. So you can call az-zuhd wal-ibadah bi'tabaran, in one consideration. Or from another consideration you can say at-tabarri wa-tawalli bi'tabaran, is bi'tabaran akhar. According to another consideration you can say we have to disassociate ourselves from anything other than Allah and what is associated with Allah, anything which is godly. What taballi is to associate yourself. So disassociate and distance is tabarri. Taballi is to associate yourself to Allah and whoever belongs to Him or is representing Him. So taballi wa tabarri, or zuhd and ibadah, these are two things that you need to reach your aim, which is haqq. ثم إنه إذا وجد الحق فأول درجات وجدانه هي المعرفة. When this talibul haq, after all this, reaches the truth, the first degree of this reaching the truth is ma'rifah. This kind of ma'rifah is different from ma'rifah through books and lectures. This type of ma'rifah is the ma'rifah which comes after zuhd and ibadah. So this is a very intimate and intense ma'rifah, knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فإذن أحوال طلاب الحق هي هذه الثلاثة. Therefore, the general conditions, if you want to talk about conditions of seekers of the truth, we can mention these three things: zuhd, ibadah, and ma'rifah. Either they are zahid or abid or arif. وَلِذَلِكَ ابْتَدَأَ الشَّيْخُ بِتَعْرِيفِهَا. And this is why Sheikh Ibn Sina started this discussion about Maqamat al Arifin with definition of these three. Then Ibn Sina, as inshallah when we go back to the main text, you would see that Ibn Sina says that these three sometimes can be found in three groups of people. For example, some are just zahid, some are just abid, some are just arif. But it can be also found together. For example, we can have someone who is zahid and arif, or abid and arif, or zahid and abid and arif. Is possible. So sometimes they are found separately, sometimes they are found together. ثم إن هذه الأحوال قد توجد في الأشخاص على سبيل الانفراد. These conditions sometimes are found in people individually, separately. انفراد means separately, individually. وقد توجد على سبيل الاجتماع, and sometimes they are found together. وذلك بحسب اختلاف It can be أعراض or it can be إعراض والاجتماعات. This can be because of differences of level of i'raz that they have, or i'raz, for example, different conditions that can happen. I'raz is the plural form for araz. Araz means accident. We use it in philosophy opposite to jawhar, but here it doesn't mean opposite to jawhar. It means those things that can happen, incidents, accidents, things that happen, or ijtima'at, coming together of these things. Not ijtima'at of human being. It doesn't mean mujtama, society, but means things that can bring things together. So sometimes one, sometimes two, sometimes three of them can exist together. الثنائية تكون ثلاثة والثلاثية واحدة. Sometimes two becomes three, sometimes three becomes one, means only one of them exists. وإلى ذلك أشار الشيخ بقوله. To this fact that these three can come together or be separately, Sheikh al-Rais referred to this fact when he said وَقَدْ يَتَرَكَّبُ بَعْضُ هَذِهِ مَعَ بَعْضٍ. Some of these can combine with others. Now let's go back to what Sheikh al-Rais says. Sheikh al-Rais says, وَالْمُوَاظِبُ. So we talked about Zahid, and we said who is Zahid. Now, who is Abid? وَالْمُوَاظِبُ. Page 58. وَالْمُوَاظِبُ عَلَى فِعْلِ الْعِبَادَاتِ. We were talking about the footnote commentary of Khajah. So now we go back to the main text. وَالْمُوَاظِبُ عَلَى فِعْلِ الْعِبَادَاتِ من القيام والصيام ونحوهما يخص باسم العابد. Who is Abid? A very good definition of Abid. I'm not saying this is the best definition, I don't know, maybe you can find better definitions, but I think this is a very good definition. Abid is the one who has muwadhaba, means he is regularly or even maybe constantly bringing acts of worship. Al-muwadhibu means he is very careful and particular about acts of worship. He has full observation of acts of worship, which includes qiyam, standing up for prayer, siyam, fasting, and similar to prayer and fasting like recitation, etc. Umrah, Hajj, these acts of worship. Okay, if someone is so much committed to acts of worship that is constantly trying to bring acts of worship, yukhassu bismil abid. This person is called abid, worshipper. So zahid al-mu'ridu an mata'i dunya wa tayyibataha. Abid al-muwadhibu ala fi'l al-ibadat. Now let's go to the third category. وَالْمُنْصَرِفُ بِفِكْرِهِ إِلَى قُدْسِ الْجَبَرُوتِ مُسْتَدِيمًا لِشُرُوقِ نُورِ الْحَقِّ فِي سِرِّهِ يُخَصُّ بِاسْمِ الْعَارِف. Now we are entering another level, higher level. For Zahid, focus was to turn away from dunya. For Abid, the focus was to commit himself or herself to ibadah. But Abid is thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-munsarifu bi-fikrihi. Arif very much invests on the heart and mind. Actually, mind is part of heart in a sense, because the Quran attributes even understanding to the heart. لهم قلوب لا يفقهون بها. This shows that fiqh, deep understanding, is also for heart. So in this sense, mind is also part of the heart. So Arif is the one that with his fiqh, with his thinking, is munsarif ila quds al-jabarut, is turning towards the sacredness of the universe of deity, of God. Not just actions, not just not to go for dunya. He's very focused on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sacred realm of Jabarut, which is above Malakut and therefore above Mulk. Mulk, Malakut, Jabarut. مستديما لشروق نور الحق في سره. Arif is through his fikr and attention, which is fixed towards the Jabarut, is trying to do istidama. Istidama means talabud dawam. Arif is trying to have continuous illumination of the light of the truth in his inner self. مستديما لشروق نور الحق في سره. Shuruq means illuminating, shining. So light of haq sometimes shines in our heart, in our inner self. But Arif is not satisfied with random, seldom illumination. Arif wants to make sure that this shuruq is enduring. Mustadiman, trying to make it permanent, continuous. Such person is called Arif. So you see, the main capital of Arif is his intention, his attitude, his thinking. This is why it's difficult to find out who is Arif. You can understand who is Abid, maybe, by looking at the Amal. Who is Zahid? Again, maybe we can understand by looking who is Zahid. Maybe. But Arif is the most difficult one to understand, because you don't know what the thoughts of this person are busy with. You know, what is he thinking about? What is he seeking? What is his aim? It's very difficult to understand who is Arif. وَقَدْ يَتَرَكَّبُ بَعْضُ هَذِهِ مَعَ بَعْضٍ. Sometimes these can combine with each other. And Khaja Rahmatullah Alayh explained this for us. Now we go to page 59. How much time we have? Okay. If you don't mind, I study another maybe 5 minutes, then I stop for questions in case there are questions, or if there are no questions, we can carry on. So if there are questions, please put in the chat so that I know there are questions. Otherwise, maybe we can continue. We go now to the next chapter, next Tanbih, Tanbihat, Al-Isharat wa al-Tanbihat. So Tanbih means another chapter. What is Zuhd for a Zahid who is Arif, and what is Zuhd for a Zahid who is not Arif? what is Ibadah for Abid who is Arif and for Abid who is not Arif. All the definitions can also have some levels and degrees. And this is one of the beauties of Islam and the Quran. Of course, this must have been reflected in Abrahamic tradition, but in the Quran or Hadith and spiritual tradition, it's very clear that the same concept can sometimes have different degrees. Taqwa can have different degrees. Taqwa can be taqwa for someone who is struggling not to commit haram. Taqwa can be even for someone like Amir al-Mu'minin, we can say he is muttaqi. What does taqwa mean? For sure, the higher levels involve the lower levels, but they may have something more. Iman, different degrees. Ma'rifah, different degrees. Love, light. There are lots of grades for these concepts. And at the same time that they share the same definition, but they have different degrees. Like the concept of wujud, that in philosophy, especially in transcendent philosophy, we learn that it's mushtaraka ma'navi, but at the same time it is tashkiki. Means it's the same concept, but has different degrees. So now let's see more closely what understandings or what different types of understanding of zuhd and ibadah are there. الزهد عند غير العارف معاملة ما كأنه يشتري بمتاع الدنيا متاع الآخرة. Asceticism for non-mystics is a kind of transaction. Mu'amala. Mu'amala means interaction or transaction. For example, buying and selling. This is mu'amala. But it can be also interaction. We have this, that ad-dinu mu'amala. Religion is a matter of how to interact with each other. So, for someone who is not Arif, zuhd is a kind of transaction. كأنه يشتري بمتاع الدنيا متاع الآخرة. As if Zahid is selling goods of dunya and buying goods of akhirah. He says, I don't want dunya. Why? Because he wants to get something in return from akhirah. It's a kind of purchase. It's kind of trade, exchange of goods. But zuhd for Arif has another dimension. وعند العارف يعني الزهد عند العارف تنزه ما, not معاملة ما. This ma is for Ibham. In Nahv you must have studied. تنزه ما means a kind of tanazzuh, a kind of distancing, a kind of purification. How? تنزه ما عما يشغل سره عن الحق. To purify yourself and distance yourself from anything that makes your inner self busy and preoccupied, so cannot pay any attention to haqq. anything that makes you busy and you cannot pay attention to haqq, you have to do tanazzuh of it. Means you have to distance yourself from it. You have to purify yourself from it. You have to disassociate yourself from it. So it's not a matter of giving something from dunya and say, okay, I don't want this, let's be saved for my akhirah. No, it's a matter of saving your attention and don't let anything preoccupy you. وَتَكَبُّرٌ تَنَزُّهُمَّ وَتَكَبُّرٌ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ غَيْرِ الْحَقِّ. For Arif, Zuhd means that anything other than Allah, I want to be higher than that. I want to be positively arrogant. تكبر على كل شيء غير الحق. I don't want to let anything other than haqq rule me and take me toward itself. I want only be at the service of haqq. قُلِ اللَّهِ ثُمَّ ذَرْهُمْ. This is not only with respect to idols. For Arif, anything other than Allah and what is godly has to be left aside. So you see, you have two different, although they are very much interconnected, but two levels of understanding zuhd. Not to have big, I don't know, car, house, money, enjoyable food. This is one level. Another is not to let anything other than Allah go to your heart and preoccupy you. Again, we have 2 degrees of ibadah. 1 degree of ibadah okay, it seems we have some questions, so maybe I can stop here because time is over. So inshallah I will explain this next week. What is ibadah for abid who is not arif? What is ibadah for abid who is arif as well? Inshallah we will talk about it in the next session. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable us not to just talk about zuhd and ibadah and arif, but also inshallah to experience them and also to keep that experience inshallah forever with us. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.